Hello, everybody, and welcome to the People's Food Summit. And today I have the pleasure of introducing a good friend of mine, someone I've known for a very long time, Karen Mapusua, and she is the current president of IFOAM Organics International. As many of you would know that I've also been a president of IFOAM, and for me, I regard it as the most important organization for the organic movement. What I'll start with asking Karen if she would like to explain to everybody who is IFOAM and what does IFOAM do. So Karen, welcome.
Thanks, Andre. And it's really good to be back for the People's Food Summit again. Great event. So thank you for continuing to keep this going on an annual basis. Yeah, IFOAM Organics International is, I've heard it described as the mothership for organic agriculture. So it really is a place for all the stakeholders in the organic and sustainable agriculture world to come together. Our membership is broad-based. It's from farmers' organizations through all the way through the value chain, including consumers and those that are concerned about the future of the planet and understand that agriculture is a really huge lever for change. So I guess that's the other way I describe IFOAM. We're a lever for changing our food system and building a more organic and sustainable and regenerative future based on that.
So for a lot of people, I just want to explain that IFOAM was formed in 1972, been around for a very long time, been through quite a few iterations. But Karen, you and your current world board have, have in many ways, how can you say, changed iPhone's vision and mission, strategy. And from my point of view, when I first read it, I thought this is fantastic. This is really what needs to be done and will ensure that iPhone still has this major role in leadership, not just in the organic movement, but I would argue in agriculture, environment, and also in social issues as well. So, Karen, would you like to talk about this wonderful vision that you have?
Sure. So when the board came in, we were operating under sort of the vision of the big tent of sustainable agriculture and organic 3.0 as it was known. So the board realized that we really needed to find our role in that big tent of so many things that needed to shift. We also really acknowledge the legacy we have, over 50 years of leadership in the organic movement. And if we looked around us, we could see the impact. I mean, you can see the certification, the availability of organic products, the number of farmers that have converted to organic. But there's so much more to do. So we needed to really focus in on what we think and where we thought we could make the biggest impact as an organic movement. So that was a sort of move from we're in this big tent with everybody to thinking about what is our role in order to take, to take leadership and have everyone with us along on that journey. Recognizing the legacy that we have, founded in France in 1972, the largest organic markets are still in the Europe and US, but the bulk of the farmers are around the rest of the world. So we also thought it was time for the organization to really focus on being inclusive and bringing equity into the discussion and making sure that all the voices in the organic movement are heard. Sometimes there's a feeling that it's become very market driven, and the market is absolutely critical in this, but there's way more to it than that. It is about the environmental movement, and it is about climate, and it is about nutrition and the food system. It's about livelihoods for farmers. So the new strategies tried to find our place in all of that. We looked at, a three-legged stool, very stable stool, and the first one is around global leadership of the organic movement. We want to lead transformative change, and the way to do that is to make sure you've got all the voices in the room. So often there's a voice missing. So we really want to be able to take the lead on those key issues: climate, biodiversity, food security, they're all interlinked and all impacted by organics and by agricultural practices. So we want to work there, not in isolation, but with like-minded movements and groups and all those that are working for change. But that inclusive conversation piece is really important, and convening those amongst our own membership, but more broadly, is a really key role we see IFOAM having in global leadership in the organic movement and in sustainable agriculture in general. We also recognize that the certification is a little bit of a double-edged sword sometimes once it moved into government regulation. Really important for consumers to know what they're buying, and transparency is really critical. But we want to make sure that the organic standards are not the lowest common denominator for what is organic, but they are aspirational, that they're really based on the principles of organics around health and ecology and fairness and care, and they're embedded in the certification and standards rather than something that is, a nice ideal, but isn't reflected in the way that we are measuring, I guess, or verifying organic status. So that leadership is really important. But leadership also needs to come from the grassroots. So the second leg of our stool is around empowering organics worldwide, and developing a global organic academy is a really big part of that. Making sure that we're, supporting our members and stakeholders more broadly to have the capabilities that they need and they want to work in their part of the organic sector. So it's quite a broad idea. We're also thinking it's important that that's not only delivered through IFOAM Organics International, but delivered through those who've got expertise in specific areas. So it will really be a whole community effort to build this academy for organics going forward. And as I mentioned at the start, the idea of equity and making sure that all parts of the world are equally engaged and have equal opportunities, equity of access, not only to things like the academy, but also to markets, to information, to the organic community that we're part of. And the last part is, I guess, something we all have to think about, is making sure that we're fit for purpose going forward. So the part of the strategy that we're really working on is looking at our governance after 50 years and making sure that the governance is reflective of the organic principles and reflective of those values of inclusion and equity. And then, using that governance and our model to be able to build the financial stability that all our organizations need in these very, very uncertain times that we face.
Yeah, well, as people will realize, it's actually a huge vision, a lot of work. But for me, it's actually a very good vision, and I believe one that is achievable. And I'm also pleased that you are tackling some of the difficult issues. One, so certification, and we use the word, I tend to use it, it's sort of like a double-edged sword. It's actually what grew us right in the beginning, and because it brought in the consumer market, and it's been very, very important. But as governments took it over and it became more and more complex, and more what we call regulatory creep went into it, it's now seen by many farmers as a hindrance.
Yeah.
And so while it's there to serve the consumers, farmers actually feel like it's not serving them. So I'm just interested on your thoughts on how to deal with that going forward.
Yeah, look, that's very true. It's it's a burden on farmers, and it's only becoming an increasing burden. So I think we've got some other models out there, which can't work everywhere, often because of regulation. But I think there's always ways to make things happen as well. And the participatory guarantee systems, so they're farmer-led, grown from the ground up, based on local needs, local environment, local realities. It's a trust-based system that consumers can be involved in. So it's also bridging that gap between farmers and consumers. I think that is, really a great opportunity for organic farmers and for the sector in general to really take back the ownership of our processes and what we do and how we do it. So I think that's a critical way forward for us in the organic sector. The integrity of that in many ways, I think, is stronger than a third party system. And nobody holds anyone to account stronger than one farmer to another farmer, because it's, we're holding up standards that we believe in. So I think that's really important. I don't think we should give up on the third party certification. I mean, it's there, we have to live with it, but we do need to continue to work and lobby the governments to make sure that the standards aren't a race to the bottom, but the standards are actually doing what they're meant to do, supporting best practice and making sure that we do have really strong and robust systems. But the way that they're certified and the costs that are involved for farmers is so that is something we need to work on together with the regulators and with the certifiers to find better ways to do that, more effective and efficient and less burdensome ways to do that. If I had a magic wand, I'd flip the whole thing over and have everyone who use chemicals be certified, and those of us who don't not have to go through that. I might not achieve that in the next 6 months or so, but that would be the ideal, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be the ideal, but unfortunately, we don't have this magic wand at the moment. But I think that the critical word you use is systems.
Mm.
And, the third party system is fit for purpose for the larger organizations who've got the economies of scale.
Mm.
And I really don't think we need to do much there. It's working and working very well for them. It's when we talk about the majority of farmers in the world, we've got about 500 million who have 2 hectares or less and actually live on about $400 US or less every year. They cannot afford third party certification. It's worth, I can say the cost of that is more than what they earn in a year.
Mm.
But they can afford PGS. So I just want to explain to the viewers a little bit more about PGS. It's what we call a peer review system. Farmers review other farmers. There's a standard. There's a training, what we call an internal control system, where all the farmers have to meet a certain standard in terms of how the group operates. And from our experience and many others, as you were saying, Karen, these are some of the best. And I'll also say from my point of view, as a farmer, that I have been involved in PGS. And you're exactly right. Farmers do not let other farmers cheat, because we don't want people cheating on us as a group. And so we will make sure that they don't. The other thing I'd just like to say too, where it is different from third party, is that when you're third party certified and you've got something wrong, it's called a non-compliance and you've got to do a corrective action. What we used to do in our PGS, and it's quite common, we don't do that. We actually, some of us, like I used to be a master grower, would take time out of our packing shed, go to theirs, and help them do it. So look, you're not doing it right here, and take it as they're not cheating. They actually just need to learn more.
Yeah.
But then we'd have a 3 strikes and you're out, because after you've done that the third time you're doing it, well, then we know you're not doing
yeah, that's right. It's not lack of capacity.
Exactly. But so I'm just putting across as someone who's personally been involved in this, and then actually as IFOAM president, put a lot of work in getting this up. I think this is the way forward. So I'm actually really pleased with where you're going with this.
Yeah, it's critical. And I think the other real value add around participatory guarantee systems, I think, is that farmer to farmer learning and exchange. I mean, I work with government agencies, ministries of agriculture, and all of them struggle with extension services. They're never well resourced. They don't necessarily have the capability, but farmers sharing their learning and their experience through a PGS is, I think, probably one of the most important innovations in agricultural extension that we can utilize. It's best practice. It's raising the standard. It's providing mentoring. I think it's a great opportunity for filling that gap that the traditional extension services can't fill. And, in particular, they can't fill it in the organic space because mostly our ministries aren't equipped to be able to do that for organic farmers.
So that also brings me to your second leg of the stool, which is the IFOAM Academy, which is bringing in a whole range of training, mentorship, learning. Would you like to just expand on that and your vision and how you're going to set it up?
Yeah. So it's in its sort of fledgling stage at the moment as we formulate it and consult with people about what it could look like. There's always demand for training and capacity building. A lot of it is at the policy level. Our policymakers need to understand what best practice is and what the opportunities are, so they can help build an enabling environment for organics. So there'll be some work done around that. Most likely the training to farmers and actual production is not something that IFOAM Organics International will deliver directly. There's many really capable organizations around the globe that can do that, contextually where they're located. So there'll be partnerships there. And also through our, regional bodies and sector platforms that have legs on the ground in different parts of the world or particular expertise, like the Animal Husbandry Alliance, for example. We've got the expertise in there and may be able to deliver courses and training through that. This has all been based around the IFOAM Leadership Academy, which has been running for quite some time. And it's been a great way to sort of bring up that next generation of organic leaders. And we can see them coming through now and taking their roles on boards and in different parts of the organic sector. And that's really built capability across the gamut, the understanding of the organic principles and the way they operate, the policy environment, the practice of organic, as well as the other leadership skills that you need in a space to be able to advocate, to be able to speak confidently to people who are not necessarily on your side of the fence just yet. So I think the Academy will continue to build that leadership capability as well as specific different technical capabilities that the movement needs.
I'm actually really pleased to hear that you're continuing with the leadership capability. That's one of the programs that we started when I was president. And as you're saying, it's been extraordinarily successful. And the way we're built capacity, and so many of these people now are in key positions.
Yeah.
And the other one, which I heard you said, is working with the, like I said, government bureaucracies, the regulators. And I think that is really important because what I found when I was president and I'd talk with them, when they're trying to put in their regulatory systems, their certification systems, they were lost. They didn't know what to do. And I think having a course to train them, to help them do it, um, will help. And, the fact is, they've got the money. They can pay IFOAM for these services. It's actually something I wanted when I was president, but it never eventuated. I believe this would be really successful, and I think you'll find so many governments will use that service. So I'm really pleased that you're starting that.
Yeah, I think they will as well. And then there's the opportunity to build communities of practice around these things as well.
Yeah.
So it sort of continues and perpetuates. And I think that's an important part of making sure that the, academy is grounded. so that it's continued on in different ways through things like communities of practice or, alumni networks like we have from the organic leadership courses to date. There's, yeah, so many things that we could do with that. It's really an exciting opportunity.
Yeah, I think so too. And then the other one, which I think is very important that you mentioned, is um, working in key environmental issues,
Mm.
say the loss of biodiversity, the toxic chemicals like PFAS and pesticides that are polluting the environment, and of course the really big one, climate change. All of these are areas where organic can show leadership and also be a good global citizen.
Mm. Yeah. Absolutely. And they're big, complex, and sometimes not very pleasant places to operate. But we need to be equipped to be there, and we need to have our data and our science right there with us, as well as the stories of our farmers and the stories of success and where we've shown impact in those areas. Yeah, we have to be there, even when they're not great ways to spend your days, but it's just so critical. And I've been really happy to see, although agriculture has been on the agenda for the climate COP for, quite a long time now, just the last couple of years, it's shifted out of being just a dedicated work stream on agriculture, and food and agriculture is appearing in multiple work streams. So just, that I think that recognition of its power as a lever for change is slowly getting there. And we need to be there then to steer that ship, to make sure that it's going in the, a systems approach that addresses, yeah, our food system holistically. And the answer isn't quick single issue techno fixes that actually in the long term will only, perpetuate the issues that we're seeing.
Actually, I'll tell you a little story. Um, IFOAM got agriculture up into the climate change talks. The
Mm.
G99 in China stopped it all the time. Anyway, I was in the COP. This is an IFOAM. I was IFOAM president in Warsaw, and every day I was sort of um, meet up, sort of cross paths with this guy from Fiji, and we got talking, and we just you know um, talked all the time, and just and then one day, he said, "How's it going?" I said, "Oh, not good. I'm really upset about what's happening." He said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Oh, the G99 in China killed putting agriculture into the document." He said, "What do you mean?" And so I started explaining our role, and because by the way, it's the other thing people don't know, we started along with other groups, started the Farmers Forum within the UN FCCC. And I was just saying how, as farmers, we were really disappointed. He says, "Look," he said, "I didn't know this." He says, "By the way, I'm the chair of the G77 in China. I'll take you guys to have a meeting with our agricultural committee." So we organised it. And from there, they agreed. And why it's called Coronivia,
Mm.
you would know, but most people wouldn't. That's one of the most important agricultural research stations in Fiji. So
Yep.
Fiji had a major role, IFOAM and Fiji together,
Yep.
in getting it up.
Absolutely. So, yep, and the Coronivia joint work is what's bringing us all together, and Fiji's still really leading on that work as well, which is great. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Mm.
anyway, I just thought I'd
Yeah.
mention that, but um, so
Mm.
I'm really pleased that you're continuing it because
Mm.
people probably don't realize how much uh, um, we've actually done and influenced over the years within the UN system
Mm.
and other systems. And I still
Yep.
believe IFOAM is the
Mm.
best organisation to do that for the organic sector.
Absolutely. And I think the IFOAM role on the civil society mechanism for the Committee on Food Security
Yeah.
is also really critical. I think, an area where we've got opportunities to explore is around the Biodiversity COP, and that convention, because it covers off so many areas that organic addresses, from maintaining biodiversity in the field to the pesticide management. So yeah, we've got to continue to engage with, all of our stakeholders and all the like-minded organizations, so we can get those messages through every possible way that we can, and
Yeah,
continue that legacy that you contributed so much to, Andre.
yeah. The Committee for Food Security, we've got a really good presence in, and I'll just let another little story like this is that um, they their committee of experts put out this whitewash on agroecology.
Mm.
I said this is wrong, and so I contacted Miguel Altieri and
Mm.
others, and I said, look at this, we've got to our organisations have got to write in and put a complaint about this. So we did,
Mm.
and we got a meeting with them and won the case. And that's how we actually got agroecology, or one of the ways we got agroecology in
Yeah.
the UN. It started. And of course, the
Yeah.
next one um, is that I was in Graziano's office when he was
Mm.
the head, Nadia Shialava. We're the ones who proposed the
Mm.
agroecology conferences.
Yeah.
And so it's our initiative that we now have agroecology up there.
Mm.
But where we've had the, you're right, where we've had the most limited presence are the biodiversity COPs. And,
Mm.
I did go to a few and talk, but it's just um, very minor. But I really think you're right. We really
Mm.
need to be there. And well, IFOAM needs to be there, get a presence, and, over time you have impact.
Yeah, that's right. It's you just got to get your foot in the door, and then be in the room, and then you start to get the networks and make those connections. And I think also there's, increasing recognition that there has to be a link between all of these UN processes as well.
Yeah.
So we can leverage the relationships we've already got, to make progress in some of those other areas. So we need boots on the ground and hands. And I think, one of the things I'm always keen to know is who of our membership and who from the broader movement are going to these events. And then we can utilize people who are already there. It's not necessarily about, the president being there or someone from the office being there, but it's one movement together, and we can all do our part if we're attending those meetings in another capacity or from our national organization. So that communication about where you are and what you're doing in the movement, I think, is also really valuable and an area we can strengthen under the new strategy.
Yeah. And so the other really important word you said, um, communication. There's
Mm.
no point what you do, all the things you're doing is the world's best kept secret. And
Yeah.
I'm just interested how you plan to go forward to make sure you can communicate all these positive messages and all the positive things that iPhone is doing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big question. I think that that's an area where we need a little bit of innovation. And again, we need to be working with our regional bodies and our sector platforms and all the different components of the movement to escalate and amplify the messages that are coming out. Something we've also been thinking about is, we need to get more strategic in our comms, different messages in different ways for different audiences.
Yeah,
Everyone always, has a laugh about TikTok, but for some people, TikTok is the way to get a message across. I'm not about to start a TikTok channel, but we've really got to innovate in those spaces. Social media is clearly hugely powerful, but we also need new people to communicate our messages as well. So I think we've got some thinking to do about, who the champions, who the influencers are in this space that will get our message away from talking to ourselves and getting out to that broader audience that needs to hear it. So it's a space of innovation and learning for us, and would be really keen to, hear from anybody out there who has got ideas about how we can be really innovative and use communications in new ways to get to new audiences. Mm.
what? You're exactly right. And using all the social media. So we use TikTok. I
Mm.
mightn't be into TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and because each one of those has its own unique audience,
Yeah.
and so you, you need to
Mm.
be there, and you need to think about how you message to each, like you
Mm.
said, these audiences. The other thing that we found was really important
Mm.
is to get younger people who know this.
Yeah.
We're part of a generation that, yes, we look at it and everything, but
Mm.
what we found when we got social media savvy people, it's water off a duck's back for them. They put these things together so quickly
Mhm.
and they get impact. And,
Yeah.
they just know it intuitively. And these are the people you need to get. You'd be surprised the difference they make and the reach
Yeah.
you'll get.
Yeah, that's true. The other thing we recognize as well is we've been very Anglophone in IFOAM, so everything is in English. So we are going to be working on how we can get our website in multiple languages and do more of our communications in some of the world's other sort of global languages as well. It's it's about equity and inclusion,
Yeah.
and people need to be able to hear and learn and read in their own language as well.
Yeah. Look,
Mm.
that's really important, and it's so much easier to do now.
Yeah.
It's not that hard.
Mm.
In our case, we make sure everything's in Spanish because we've got a
Mhm.
large Latin American presence.
Yeah.
For last week I was in Central Asia and
Mhm.
with the organic movement there, and because they're all say ex-Soviet Union countries, their second language is Russian. It's the
Yeah.
common language, and
Mhm.
you know, very few of them speak English.
Yeah.
Um, so I
Mhm.
think that then you think about the percentage of the world that speaks Mandarin, and yeah, look, I agree with you. We really, and all our organisations have got to communicate with people in their language, not
Yeah.
assume they know English.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, really critical. Mm.
And as you're saying, that's fairness, equity.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. I-
Yeah.
Mm.
Anyway, Karen, I just want to say I think you and the current World Board are doing a marvelous job. I know how much you've had to do to get this, and I know you're all up for election um, soon, a couple of months. But I really hope that the majority of you get elected so you can consolidate these changes. I think this is very important, and I personally
Mm.
see iPhone now. It's got a really good, bright future. So thank you, Karen. I really appreciate what you've done.
Thank you, Andre. It's been a wild ride the last few years, starting our term during COVID in
Mm.
particular. Um, but yeah, I think we do have a really bright future as an organization. And I think I'm reminded every day just how important it is. So yeah, we'll keep soldiering on and making sure that we get where we need to be.
And you can be assured that
Mm.
Regeneration International will support what you're doing.
Thank you so much.
Ciao.
Okay, ciao.